Here's part 10 of my essay, Still Searching. We're still searching. I'm still searching. We only use about 5% of our brains. Well, at least that's what some scientists think. What if religion is an outdated part of the cortex? What if part of the brain that uses religion is more primitive? Logical reflection and reason would be the advanced part, in my opinion. Logical reflection would be the ability to use reflection to make good logical and compassionate choices. Here's another quote from my Christian friend Craig. He says, quote, "I am also talking about the appearance of life starting from inanimate chemicals. When I'm talking about evolution, I'm not speaking of natural selection." This statement also doesn't make sense. When one speaks about evolution, one has to speak of natural selection. It is the principle upon which it is based. It's like saying that when you are talking about culinary arts, you cannot talk about recipes. Of course, I know where he's going with this. He's trying to make a deeper point, that he is in touch with something that I'm not in touch with. He's in touch with some sublime insight, that science must be inadequate given the conversion from inanimate life to animate life. What if there were 10 to the googolplex years to get this done? It may have happened this way. Humans cannot grasp, we cannot with our minds grasp the concept of infinite time or space, not even extremely large sections like a googolplex. It's with science that we humbly take the steps, not with gross generalizations. If there is a God, I think he or she or it would want us to assume, but to not make any blind leaps of faith. I think that this God would want us to make one great discovery using our science, not running while we should be walking. What about the scientific method of carefully testing hypotheses and disregarding if there is a slight inconsistency? Science is the best method we have been given with our limited 5 senses. Science is the best method we have given our limited 5 senses. Having faith that there is a creator and that nothing more needs to be looked into means we can just throw up our arms, throw up our hands and say God is in control. What is the purpose of free will then? Well, I'll stick with science because it's the best we can do to understand the world and how it works. I would rather have a cardiologist perform heart surgery on me rather than a priest. The cardiologist has science on his side. Let's continue the debate. This is very fascinating. Okay, my friend Craig, and let's take it back to Craig again, still cares deeply to convince me that there is more wisdom in Christianity. In a recent letter he told me, in the book In 6 Days, Why 50 Scientists Believe in Creation, there is a statement by one of the scientists that says, quote, "Creationists, of course, have not the slightest problem with natural selection. Creation and evolution are actually both outside the realms of science, and to know this, you need to know what science is. Neither process is currently observable, testable, or repeatable. Please note that when speaking of evolution, I'm talking of the appearance of new, rearranged, or not rearranged, genetic information. I'm also talking about the appearance of life starting from inanimate chemicals. When I'm talking about evolution, I'm not speaking of natural selection." The man who wrote this is Dr. Stephen Grocott. He holds a BS in chemistry and a PhD in organometallic chemistry from the University of Western Australia. He holds 4 patents, has published 30 research papers. He's an elected fellow of the Royal Australia Chemical Institute. This book is quite interesting and points out the patently false statement by Richard Dawkins, about scientists not subscribing to creation. All 50 contributors, all 50, have earned doctorates from, doctorates, I guess you could say, from a state-recognized university in Australia, the U.S., Canada, South Africa, Germany, or United Kingdom. If Dawkins is wrong about this statement, what if you're wrong, Richard, right? He's wrong about the statement. How many other statements are being made on his faith that God does not exist? It takes faith to believe in either proposition. That's a quote from my friend Craig. And then I say, "Dear Craig, this is what it all comes down to. It's looking up into the night sky full of stars, a bright night sky full of stars, and becoming infinitely humble, looking at the mystery of it all. In theological terms, every day is a miracle. The fact that we can live, love, think, care for one another, share a laugh or smile, that we can evolve toward peace using our minds, that is a miracle to me. That I was born during this time of history is a miracle. It's a fascinating time, a slice of history. One of the more interesting ones, if you really want to be honest about it. Why was I born now? Are most with the atheist worldview lacking compassion? This is a fair question. Most probably, we misinterpret atheists who have a deep sense of compassion and ethics. Some use the atheist label for themselves to express anger against overly religious parents or wrongs done in the lives, such as aborted fetus, an uncle who died suddenly, or relatives dying in a car accident. I believe atheism can be a superficial reaction, a knee-jerk reaction to authority, or a carefully reasoned philosophy. I prefer the latter, for sure. The latter I respect infinitely more. This carefully reasoning type philosophy. I think a lot of us are just plain uncomfortable with the idea that we evolved from apes and from lower forms of life. Our egos will not take it. We just will not take it. We cringe at the immoral laws of nature, and we come up with terms like social Darwinism, to bash Darwinism. That we came from some random primordial soup is somehow an insult to us. Can we see the logic in why God would have designed snakes, scorpions, or spiders? Charles Darwin said of wasps, "I cannot persuade myself that a benevolent and omnipotent God would have designedly created the echinodae with the expression intention of their feeding within the living body of caterpillars." But Darwin would remind us the evolutionary process has produced wonderfully designed creatures, and that there are always new mysteries to uncover. We take the good with the bad, but what a wonderful mystery this earth is. There is so much to discover in so little time. Some Christians are mad at Dawkins, saying that evolution will always be a theory. That's a common misconception. Saying that evolution is always going to be a theory because we'll never be able to directly observe what happened millions of years ago. One observer of Richard Dawkins wrote this: "It is the grandest insult to human knowledge to suppose that we have to observe something visually in order to know it sends us straight back to the Dark Ages. You can ask questions of this kind all you want. Nothing will constitute will constitute a sufficient answer if you have already supposed that the answer must be mystical in some way. Again, you cannot reason someone out of something where they were not reasoned into. You cannot reason somebody out of you can't reason something out of somebody who's had this poured into them in an irrational manner. It cannot happen." We'll continue part 11 coming up on the next section.